Hey everyone, it's Craig Campbell with another look at a 1956 Topps baseball card. And today we're looking at Gene Conley, who was a pitcher primarily with the Milwaukee Braves. And I've had this card for a long time. It's seen better days, but it's one that I've had probably maybe going back into the 1970s even. But card number 17 of the 1956 set. And you can see that Gene was born in 1930, and if you notice his height, Gene was 6 feet 8 inches tall, and quite an interesting character. A lot to look at in his career. And Gene Conley excelled at the major league level at 2 sports, and is the only athlete to own dual sport championships in Major League Baseball and the NBA. Besides pitching for the World Series champion Milwaukee Braves in 1957, he was a member of 3 NBA championship teams with the Boston Celtics. He was the first player to earn Minor League Player of the Year honors twice and appeared in 3 Major League All-Star games. His 15-year career as a professional athlete totaled 23 seasons that included 11 in baseball's major leagues and 6 in the NBA. At one point, he packed 12 major league seasons into 6 years with not a day off in between those seasons. And Gene had baseball cards in the top set from 1953. I believe his final card was the 1964 Topps. Now, Gene was 12 years old when they moved to Richland, Washington. And in high school, he earned letters in basketball, baseball, and track. He was productive in all 3 sports. He was an all-state player. He went to college at Washington State, where he excelled in basketball, led the team to tournaments, was an excellent baseball pitcher. He was a high jumper in track, and he was inducted into the Washington State University's Hall of Fame in 1979. His pitching attracted scouts from almost every major league team. He initially resisted. He wanted to finish college, but he did sign with the Braves, of the Boston Braves, in October of 1950. And shortly after he signed, he became married in 1951, whom he had met the previous fall. Now, the Braves, they assigned Conley to their Class A team in 1951, and his debut season was outstanding. He had 20 wins, an earned run average of 2.16, a strikeout-to-walk ratio that was well over 3-to-1. He was honored as the league's most valuable player, and he was named Minor League Player of the Year by the Sporting News. Conley's success came because of only 2 pitches, a fastball and a curve, which he would use his entire career. Now, it's interesting, when the Braves learned that Gene was considering playing professional basketball, he was summoned to a meeting with the general manager of the Boston Braves, and at the meeting, Gene was given a $1,000 check in return for a promise never to play basketball again. Well, he honored that deal, and he worked in the offseason as an iron worker. In 1951, he had a serious look at the Braves. They promoted him to be the 4th starter for 1952, but his short stay in the major leagues was a dismal 3 winless starts. And he was assigned back to the minor leagues to the Milwaukee Braves' top farm team. Interestingly, in the 1952 season, Conley was the 90th overall pick in the NBA draft, selected by the Boston Celtics. They decided for financial reasons he should try to make the team. So he did, and surprisingly, the Boston Braves gave him permission to play. He played sparingly for Red Auerbach Celtics, but he established that he had the ability to play in the NBA. 1953 was a year of promise for Conley, as he fully expected to make the big league team, but he did not. Again, he was sent to the top minor league system, now in Toledo, and he started fast and he kept pace late into the season, but then he was sidelined by a troublesome back, which would rear its ugly head many, many times in his career. But he'd won 23 games before his exit, and he was named Minor League Player of the Year for the 2nd time by Sporting News, the only player to be so honored more than one time. After the season, he got to feeling better, his back was better, and he played for the Celtics in the 53-54 season. Once again, Quinn, the general manager of the Braves, intervened, and he matched the Celtics' offer of $5,000 not to play basketball. Conley took the money and spent the winter working in Toledo. In 1954, he had a few good starts, and he was named to the Braves' 5-man rotation. He had a good season. He responded by being named to the 1954 All-Star Game in Cleveland, where he was the losing pitcher. But that year, he notched 14 wins, but again, he ended up with back problems, and he finished third in an outstanding class for Rookie of the Year honors in 1954. He was third in 1954 behind Wally Moon, behind Ernie Banks, but he finished 2 spots higher than Hank Aaron out of that group. He recovered quickly that year. He played for the Celtics, and he was there, and he signed with the team. Or no, he made the Celtics, but then he resigned on the eve of the opening game, and he said he wanted to spend more time with his family. He just did not think he could be a two-sport athlete. Conley went to the 1955 Braves spring training without a contract. He was a holdout, but once in camp, he was able to negotiate a $20,000 contract, double his rookie salary. He had a good campaign. He started off 8-3, but during a game against the Philadelphia Phillies on June 15th, there was a horrible sound of something popping and cracking as he delivered a pitch that even Del Crandall, the catcher, heard. The injury was to Conley's rotator cuff, and it would plague him the rest of his career, and it would have ended it except for regular cortisone injections. Conley estimated that he received over 100 cortisone injections during his career. Again, his back gave him some issues. He had more problems, but he selected the National League All-Star game. He was not going to pitch because of a sore arm, but he was forced into action when the National League came back from a 5-0 deficit to send the game into extra innings. He was called to pitch in the 12th inning, and he struck out Al Kaline, Mickey Vernon, and Al Rosen in order. Stan Musial slammed a home run leading off the bottom of the 12th, and Conley became the winner of the game for the National League. But Gene would not start another game that season. He had lost 2 starts after the All-Star game. He was rested for 3 weeks, and he went on the disabled list for the rest of the season. The shoulder problems were to stay with Conley for the rest of the 56 season. He was on the disabled list. He went to Mayo Clinic. He was used sparingly. Following the 1957 season, Conley following the 1957 season, to avoid the disabled list, he was able to avoid the disabled list and won 9 games, in 1957. The Braves continued their fine play and won the National League and the World Series, but Conley had only 1 single relief appearance, giving up 2 runs in Game 3. The pitching career that had been so promising a few years ago began to unravel in 1958. Conley's shoulder was still a big bother to him. The Braves were getting better with pitching. Conley became frustrated as he was only getting relief action, and he began to drink heavily, constantly at odds with the manager. He finished the year 0-6 in 1958 and did not appear in the World Series against the Yankees. After that horrible and disappointing season, Conley decided to give basketball another try. He called up Red Auerbach and was told that Boston did not want him or need him. But Red said, if you want to try out, you can come on and take a tryout. We're not going to pay you to do it, but you have to come on your own. So Conley went by his own funds to Boston, tried out for the Celtics, and he made the team. On the court, he was a strong player. He hustled. He could outjump most anyone in the league, and he excelled on defense and rebounding. He would prove that he had staying power as he played 3 seasons with the Celtics, who were NBA champions all 3 years. As soon as the Celtics' playoff run would end, Conley would report to spring training. And during the 1959 season, he was traded to the Philadelphia Phillies for a 6-player deal. A few days after that, Conley would end up fracturing he ended up having a fracture that ended his finest season in 1960 for the Phillies. And He just struggled on the disabled list over and over. He was picked to pitch in the All-Star game in Los Angeles, and he pitched 2 perfect innings that included strikeouts of Ted Williams and Yogi Berra. He was named Comeback Player of the Year by the Baseball Writers Association of America. And after that season, he'd signed 2 contracts, one with the Phillies and another with the Celtics. Conley's wins started to drop off. The Phillies offered him $20,000 to forego basketball the next winter. He made a counteroffer that ended the negotiations and resulted as being traded to the Boston Red Sox. During Conley's time in Boston, he played for the Red Sox and for the Celtics. But then after a few games, he was traded to the New York Knicks, where he did not succeed at all. And then with the Red Sox, he had the reoccurrence of a rotator cuff injury that continued to plague him, and he just pitched just shy of 200 innings, and he only won 11 games for the 6th place Red Sox. In 1962, he recorded career highs in wins and innings pitched. However, shoulder pain returned along with heavy drinking. Before the 1962 season ended, Conley was traded. His NBA rates were traded from Chicago back to the New York Knicks. He signed on to play, but it turned out to be his last year in the league. He had severe injury ankles, a broken index finger. He just had so many injuries. And because of his early exit from basketball in 1963, Conley was able to participate in a full spring training. But those basketball injuries just proved to be a major issue, along with his chronic shoulder pain. Just after the 1964 season got underway, the Red Sox released Conley on April 21st. Conley pitched in only 2 games with the Cleveland Indians, who signed him in their minor league system. Conley, being the only player to actually win championships in baseball and in basketball, him and his wife were very instrumental as they were able to lobby the NBA to get pensions for the pre-1965 players. They lobbied Commissioner David Stern, and their initiative actually proved to be successful in 1988 when the Players Association of the NBA agreed to extend benefits to its earliest players, likes of Gene Conley, George Mikan, so on and so forth. In 1989, Gene Conley's wife had a life-threatening surgery to remove brain tumor, which was successful. They had 3 children and 7 grandchildren, and Gene Conley died on July 4th of 2017 at the age of 86. And again, Gene Conley, a guy that is pretty much in the commons pile from the 54 to 64 sets. He was never much of a star. But think about Gene Conley and the impact he had, not only as a baseball player winning a championship with the Milwaukee Braves, but 3 NBA championships with the Boston Celtics. Gene Conley was one heck of an athlete. And the greatest thing, the story about him, is his ability to overcome alcoholism, which was probably brought on by severe pain to his back, to his shoulder injuries. Can you imagine going from basketball to baseball, then back to baseball and basketball, all those years back and forth? What the wear and tear must have been on this young man's body. And it seemed like he was probably self-medicating with alcohol and those cortisone shots. And it's really just a testament to overcome that. And for him and his wife to be so involved in gaining pensions for the NBA players who paved the way for the players that play the game now. But that's a story about Gene Conley, and what a great player in 2 leagues. And just to read his story makes me appreciate his cards even more. And guys, this is what the hobby's about. It's about knowing a little bit more about the players. Of course, we all enjoy the Mickey Mantles and the Hank Aaron's and the Willie Mays of the world. You know, we all enjoy these guys and these guys. But it's these guys here that really make these guys and their careers stand out even more. Because it takes a team. And this hobby is more than just collecting star players, at least in my opinion. And if you watched it this far, I do appreciate it. I enjoy going and taking a look at these 1956 cards. I love them. You can see them with the pitching pose, again, the empty stadium, and a great picture of him smiling. And guys, enjoy the hobby. This is what it's all about. Have a great night.